Hello, I'm Anne MacDonald and I run Scotland Studies Centre, Academic and Business Language Training in Edinburgh, Scotland. The ICONFED conference, the title is Future of Education, Issues in Teacher Education, and today I have 15 minutes to convince you that there are indeed very serious issues in teacher education, especially in relation to language teaching, and to show you how these changes can be implemented in the classroom. The title of my presentation is Interactive Language Creation, ILC, Applying Semiotics for Change in Language Teaching. So I propose a semiotic approach to language teaching, and I'll explain the philosophical basis of this. And interactive language creation is the application in the classroom. Why do we need change? Basically, teaching is stuck in time. I've been teaching English for over 40 years. That's 40, not 14, 4 decades. And in that time, there has been basically no fundamental change in the view of language and how it should be taught. The presentation will explain why we need to change. Basically, the traditional model is stuck in Saussure's dyadic model, which I call a dissection approach. It's based in sentence-level grammar, which is stuck in time, tense, and the text-level grammar is very much neglected. And how can that change take place? I recommend an interpreter-based model. Interpreter is semiotic language for user, basically in teaching context, the student and teacher. And it's based on Charles Sanders Peirce, the American philosopher's triadic model. So not the Saussurean dyadic model, but a triadic model. And for classroom application, Halliday's systemic functional linguistics. And my application of this is interactive language creation, general language, and also for writing, ITC, interactive text creation. So, Saussure's traditional dyadic model is signified, the object, the idea, and the signifier, the language that expresses this, and it's one-to-one correspondence, and there's no person, no user, no interpreter in this model. Language, as I said, is stuck in time. It's dissection by time. So you have past, present, future tenses. Language is cut up into different parts according to time. With this model is that it's based in Latin. And English is not Latin. English is based in feelings, emotions, and viewpoint. It's much more complicated than just simply time. So, English is not a tense-based language, and the problem for students, if tense is forced onto language, is that they are confused, they have a headache when it comes to using the language they've learned in actual situations. For example, the use of will. It'll rain tomorrow, it will rain tomorrow. This has two aspects or viewpoints. And notice the future is signalled by tomorrow, so we don't need the tense to signal the time. The first aspect is based on a guess. So, and focus is on probability. It's something like, I think it'll probably rain. And the second aspect is focus on maybe the clouds and the rain as a scientific fact. That is, it'll definitely rain. So notice that this idea of a guess and the idea of definiteness are contradictory. And students need to become aware of this contradiction because there are multiple aspects at the same time. They need to be able to view language from different perspectives at the same time. Now, moving on to language above the sentence, to the text. The way writing is taught, the text structure is taught traditionally is I, B, C. And I'm sure you're all aware that this is introduction, body, conclusion. This is how I learned about text structure many, many decades ago. And this is how it's still taught. But this is a dissection approach. It cuts up the text. And the students are not really taught how to connect these different parts. And the aspects of the text, the ideas and the connectors are presented in bits. And the student is left to wonder how to put all of these bits together. Usually they're just told, go write this essay, here are all the bits. Go write it. How useful is this? I would say it's as useful as a doctor telling a sick patient, very interesting, you have a head, a body, and feet. In other words, it's not really useful at all. Now, as I've said, the traditional model is a dissection approach. The language is cut up into bits, and basically, it's dead. Language is alive, and it's organic, and it's all connected. The different parts are all connected. So it has a head. For example, in the text, you have the topic statement, the introduction, and the title control the rest. And it's all interconnected. And if there's something wrong in one part, it affects the other parts. And also, it works in context. So language cannot be isolated from its context of use. So now we come to how to implement change. And basically, we need a fundamental change in the way we view language. And I would like to present language as interpreter-based. That is, in the classroom, student and teacher-based. So the focus is not on the language, it's not on the bits, it's on the actual student and the teacher. And this is based in Charles Sanders Peirce's triadic model of meaning creation, and in the classroom in Michael Halliday's systemic functional linguistics, which is based in choice. So the students choose aspects of language that are appropriate to specific meanings in specific contexts. So how does Peirce's triadic model work? It's best to understand it in context. So in the context of this presentation, the topic is need for change in language teaching. And Peirce has three realities, three qualities: firstness, secondness, and thirdness. Firstness is like Saussure's signified. It's the idea, the feelings, the sense, the experience, the idea in the abstract. And secondness is like the signifier, like the language. But with Peirce, it's interaction in the real world. So this is the abstract idea, this is interaction in the real world, and this is an understanding that takes place as a result of this interaction. So in the context of this presentation, this is the topic. I interact with the feelings, the sense, the experience that I have of this topic to write the presentation. And then there is thirdness, which is an understanding by you, perhaps, of the presentation. And it's also the presentation itself. So it's an understanding, a synthesis of the interaction. Now, the wonderful thing about Peirce's model is the idea of infinite semiosis, so infinite meaning creation. And how this works is we have the topic, the interaction with the topic and the creation of the presentation, the understanding, the thirdness, which is called the interpretant, and then this becomes a firstness, another firstness, and this then, people then interact with this, perhaps you interact with the presentation, and then you form your own interpretation, the thirdness, which again becomes firstness, and then, so perhaps you write a paper or give a presentation of your own, and this is the interaction with the firstness, your feelings, your ideas, your understanding, and then this becomes a thirdness for your audience or your readers. So this is how meaning is created. How do we apply this in the classroom? So for example, in the academic writing class, this is borrowed from Umberto Eco, his idea of a community in semiosis. And the yellow in the classroom is the academic text in creation, the process. So it's the title, and the students have their own ideas of what the title means. So they have ideas, feelings, a sense of meaning, and based on their experience, and maybe some have no idea at all. And the teacher also has these ideas and feelings, but also experience, more experience than the students. And it's the teacher's job to introduce the students to the academic community, the norms of that community, as well as the different text creation techniques. And this is done by interaction. The red means interaction, and the teacher interacts equally with the students, eliciting the ideas and adding help where necessary. And hopefully the result is an interpretant, an understanding by everyone, each a little bit different of course, but it could also be a text that has been created together. So this is the interpretant, which then becomes another firstness, so object two. The object one is the initial idea, and object two becomes the text itself, which then goes on to be another interaction in secondness, perhaps through a redraft, and then a further understanding, a further thirdness. Michael Halliday and people in the Hallidayan tradition have done much to apply semiotics to the language classroom, but most of it has been done in Australia, and other countries have neglected it. Textbooks have neglected it because they make money anyway with the traditional method. Why should they change? My take on the systemic application to the classroom is interactive language creation, or ITC, interactive text creation. Now, there isn't much time to show you how this works, but you can get in touch with me and I'd be happy to help. But for now, I would like to present a few ideas. How to implement ILC or ITC in the classroom. How does ITC work? The basis is creating text in interaction with learners. And the question is not what does language mean, but what does language do? So students are active participants. And you need a starting point in the classroom. And the starting point can be a text for analysis, or it can be a text or a presentation title, as I've demonstrated. It can be a sample text that you analyse. It can be research notes. It can be a diagram. Any starting point, and then the teacher interacts with the students. Now, Halliday and other people working in systemic functional linguistics have done a lot of work in these different interactive text creation techniques. And there are more, but these are some of the main ones. And the idea is that teachers would familiarise themselves with these and introduce them to the students. And these are the references. Again, mainly Halliday and Peirce. So now it's time for interaction. I would like to thank IConFed for allowing me to do this presentation. I'm just recovering from surgery. I would have loved to have been in Malaysia. I worked there in the 79 to 81. I've been many times. I love Malaysia. I'm so disappointed I can't be there. but you can be there in spirit. We're connected. So if you have any questions, we have 5 minutes, very short time, but like I say, please get in touch afterwards. Thank you.